What makes your dad happy?
Hugs and kisses from me. That I love him. His family, Jesus. Well, bowling, I think that would help.
What makes your dad sad?
If I don't obey him. When I splash all the water around.
What is your dad's favorite thing to do?
Go to Starbucks. Play pillow fights. If we go like somewhere special like Disneyland or something.
How old is your dad?
3, 5, 68.
How tall is your dad?
Well, I'll go with like 8'12" or something. 20 inches.
What does your dad do for a job?
My dad's a police officer. He protects people. He works hard so that way we can get money to buy toys for our birthday.
What do you and your dad do together?
Sometimes we would have like a date together. We fight and wrestle. Snuggle when it's nighttime.
What's your dad really good at?
Lego Star Wars. Cooking. Tickling me because he's like so good I can almost throw up.
In what ways are your dad and God the same?
My dad and God love me and they're both big. God helps me make the right choices and Daddy helps me make the right choices sometimes too. Because he gives me a warning.
How do you know that your dad loves you?
He tells me. It's because he's been with me all my days and he's never left me. Sometimes he hugs me and kisses me, and sometimes he says it to me. He's honest with me. He's well, I can tell that he really loves me. I love you, Daddy. Happy Father's Day.
Only you, and only you can heal our land. Only you can make things right again. Come chase our wandering hearts, these prodigals we are. Don't wait. Open up the heavens, pour out your presence. We want to see revival. Bring us back to you. Oh, how we need you to. We want to see revival. Only you make darkness shake. Only you can make dry bones awake. Come fill our starving hearts, these hungry souls of ours. Don't wait, we wait. And open up heavens, pour out your presence. We want to see revival. Bring us back to you. Oh, how we need you to. We want to see revival. We want to see hearts ablaze. We want to see people changed. We want to see revival, revival. We want to see mercy win. Hope is to hope again. We want to see revival, revival. We want to see lives restored.
Good morning, Table Tribe. My name is Ashley. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We want to wish a happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Thank you so much for all that you do, and your love does not go unnoticed. Here at the table, our mission is to guide people in a forward-moving relationship with Jesus, and you can partner with us by sharing this video with a friend, a family member, a coworker, or anyone you think needs a message of hope today. This week, we're starting our new series, Jumping Ship with Jonah, and we're going to learn all about how we are modern-day Jonahs.
Hey there, Table Tribe. Welcome back to another Sunday with us at the table. We're so glad that you've joined us today. I just want to say happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Thank you for what you do and the difference that you make in the lives of our kids. I am married to a great man who is a wonderful dad, and then I also am so thankful for my dad and my father-in-law and the difference that they've made in my life. So thank you for what you do. Today, we're so excited because we're starting a new series called Jumping Ship with Jonah. By now, most of you have learned, if you're like me, you've learned that life is not all butterflies and rainbows. We make plans that we don't follow through on. We have to do things that we don't want to do, and most often, we don't do things that we're supposed to do. We watch the dishes and the laundry pile up. We've hit the decline button on the call that comes through from that one particular person. We've seen somebody drop a handful of groceries, and instead of stopping to help them, we've kept on walking. We've seen that desperate plea on social media, and we've kept on scrolling. We've ignored that direct message or that friend request. We just have all jumped ship at some point, mostly because we don't believe that the outcome is going to be favorable to us. But have you considered that maybe that all makes us modern day Jonahs? Let's talk about the bigger picture. What if God's plans for us require us to do what we don't want to do and get back on board? So I want to start out by sharing an experience with you that I had just a few days ago. You see, I had to go to the grocery store to grab a few things. And you're all saying, okay, well, what's new and exciting about that? Well, my family and I have been sticking fairly close to home during this time. And I've been mostly getting my groceries delivered, or I've been doing the drive-up option at Target, which is a real bummer, because I love Target. But be that as it may, I just had a few things to grab, and that didn't really warrant a full a grocery delivery service. And I had to go run an errand in the car anyway. And so I thought, okay, I'll just go to the store, grab the few things that I need. I'll be in and out, no problem. So I went to the store. Now I went to the store for the first time in probably a month. So when I walked in, there were a few things that were different from the last time I was there. And the one thing that I noticed that was really different was, and those of you who have been grocery shopping more recently than I would have noticed this already, is that all the aisles are now one way to make it easier for us to social distance while we grocery shop. So, and the store I was in had these nice bright green arrows on the floor to help you know which direction you were supposed to go for which aisle. So I am a rule follower. So if I started to go down an aisle that had an up arrow, I would immediately stop and back up and move over to another aisle to make sure I was going the right direction. But then there are those people who, are just grocery shopping in the way that they normally do, and they end up going up the down aisle and down the up aisle, and it's not intentional. They just weren't paying attention, and by the time they realize, they're 3/4 of the way down the aisle, so what's the point in turning around then? Then there's those few occasional people that stop at the beginning of the aisle, look down, know they're going the wrong way, and then just keep going anyway because they don't care. who they don't care if they're going the wrong direction. Maybe you've had that experience recently. Or maybe you'll relate to the story of my sister Angela. See, Angela was a lovely person who could best be described as directionally challenged. She would get lost in her own hometown, and actually she did. So there was one time, I remember a particular Thanksgiving where I was spending Thanksgiving with my fiance and his family, and Angela went to Thanksgiving with some close family friends of ours. And at the end of the day, Angela very kindly volunteered to drive Grandma back to her assisted living facility. So meanwhile, I and my family, my soon-to-be family, were just sitting down after we'd had dessert, and we were just sitting down to enjoy some coffee when my phone rang. And of course, it was Angela. She was calling because she had dropped off Grandma, and she thought she could get home from there. And it turns out, of course, she got lost. So she was calling me because she had absolutely no idea where she was. She just knew that she probably wasn't going in the right direction. So after several minutes of her describing various stores and landmarks and stuff that she had passed, I finally figured out what had happened. And let me just tell you, this was the days before you had GPS on your phones and stuff to help you with these sorts of things. She would have really benefited from that. Anyway, I finally figured out what had happened. You see, what she had done was she had turned left out of the driveway of the assisted living facility instead of turning right. And so she was going west instead of going east. She was going in the complete opposite direction of where she was supposed to be going. Now, before we dive into the story of Jonah, you see what I did there?
Here at the table, we like to talk during the talk. Here's a question you can discuss with your family. Have you ever gotten lost and realized you were going in the opposite direction of where you should be going?
So today, I want to introduce you to a guy named Jonah. Some of you have probably heard of him before, but we really don't know a whole lot about Jonah, except that he was a prophet who lived in Israel. This was back when Palestine was divided into two kingdoms. We had Israel in the north and Judah in the south. And usually, when we hear from prophets in the Old Testament, they are bringing messages to the people of Israel and Judah. They're bringing messages to God's people. And here's where Jonah was a little different. The story starts by saying, "The Lord's word came to Jonah, Amittai's son. Get up and go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it, for their evil has come to my attention." Now, here was the problem for Jonah. Nineveh was a big city in Assyria, which was an enemy of Israel. In fact, not long after this story happened, a kingdom of Assyria invaded Israel and conquered it and carted off thousands of Israelites into captivity and exile. But Jonah was a prophet, so you would think that he would do what God told him to, even if it was a little bit reluctantly. But the story continues. So Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish from the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship headed for Tarshish. He paid the fare and went aboard to go with them to Tarshish, away from the Lord. This is a shocker to me. Not only does Jonah not do what God is telling him to do, he thinks he can run away from God, and he goes in the opposite direction. Instead of heading east toward Nineveh, he heads west and goes down to the port of Joppa and gets on a ship that will take him as far away as possible from where he is supposed to be going. Now, before we judge Jonah too harshly, stop and consider this. Have you ever known that you were supposed to do something and instead you've gone in the complete opposite direction? So many times we know what we are supposed to do and we pull a 180. God was calling Jonah to make a difference, and he did what so many of us often do when we're called to step out of our comfort zones and make a difference. We run in the opposite direction. Jonah got on a ship, and he was all set to enjoy a nice little cruise to Spain. In fact, he even went down to the hold of the ship and took a nap. A huge storm came up, and it blew in out of nowhere, and it was so bad that it was endangering the ship and the crew, and that the ship was going to break apart. You know, my husband and I watched a movie recently. If you don't think a storm could break a ship apart, we watched this movie based on a true story, and in it there was this huge storm out in the Atlantic Ocean, and it actually broke this huge oil tanker in two. So think about, this wasn't a huge oil tanker. This was a boat made out of wood. And this is a big, scary storm. So the writer goes on to tell us, meanwhile, the sailors said to each other, "Come on, let's cast lots so that we might learn who is to blame for this evil that's happening to us." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they said to him, "Tell us, since you're the cause of this evil happening to us, what do you do, and where are you from? What's your country, and of what people are you?" What is so important to see here is the word evil. It is the same Hebrew word that God used at the very beginning of this story to describe the evil people of Nineveh. Why is that important? See, we like to look down on others. We like to look around and we like to compare ourselves, and we like to say, look, I'm not so bad as so-and-so down the street. They cheat on their taxes. What I do, that's not so bad. But to God, it doesn't matter how you disobey. It's all equally bad. We are all as bad as each other. What Jonah learned, and what I want you to know, is that not doing something that God has called you to do, in other words, disobedience, will take your life in a downward direction and cause it to spiral out of control.
Here's another question you can discuss with your family. Have you ever had your life go in a downward direction because you've made poor life choices?
Now this is where the story gets surprising. From what we've seen of Jonah so far, I would have expected him to lie and say, "No, this is not my fault. I'm a prophet. I am sent from God. There is no way that this is my fault." But instead, he tells them that he is a follower of the one true God who made the sea. And then listen to what happens. They said to him, "What will we do about you so that the sea will become calm around us?" The sea was continuing to rage. He said to them, "Pick me up and hurl me into the sea. Then the sea will become calm around you. I know it's my fault that this great storm has come upon you." Did you hear what Jonah just said? It's my fault. He knew that he had caused the problem. Instead of shifting the blame, he owned his own bad choices. God is not to blame for the consequences of our bad choices. It is when we take ownership of our bad choices that God can use us in his bigger picture. So at this point, you're probably saying, okay, Jeannie, that's great. I'm so glad that Jonah owned his bad choices and, owned his mistakes. But isn't throwing him into the ocean kind of an extreme step? And you know what? The sailors kind of thought that too. They were like, okay, Jonah, we know you got us into this, but we don't think throwing you into the ocean is probably the best solution. So what did the sailors try to do? They tried with all their might to row again in the opposite direction of God's solution. And they couldn't do it. It wouldn't work. The storm continued to rage. So finally, they gave up. And they picked up Jonah and threw him overboard. And immediately, as soon as he hit the water, the storm stopped and the sea became calm. Now, just when you think the story can't get any weirder, then this happens. The Lord provided a great fish to swallow Jonah. Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. So, here's the question that I want you to think about this week and challenge yourself with. What is God asking you to do? Are you following him, or are you pulling a 180 and running in the opposite direction? This week, Jonah performed a fairly simple trick of a 180. I hope you'll come back and join us next week and we can see what kind of trick Jonah pulls next.
If you would you say this prayer with me this morning? Remember, the table is for you, but it's also for the people who aren't here. So we pray this prayer. Lord, bring someone across my path who needs to know you. Give me the eyes to see them, the ears to listen to them, the arms to embrace them, and the heart to love them well. Amen.
Thank you for tuning in today, and we thank you for your continued support. We wish you a happy Father's Day and hope you have a great rest of your week.